It's car con carne. Let's eat in the car. It's car con carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
And welcome to Car con Carne. I'm James Van Alstyne. Tonight it is episode 535, and on this here hyper-local podcast, we are going to focus on the most local spirit imaginable, Malört, turning taste buds into taste foes for generations. On with me right now, he is the owner of CH Distillery. He is the head distiller of CH Distillery. His name is Tremaine Atkinson. Tremaine, great to see you. You're in a great, for people who are just listening, not watching, you're surrounded by all kinds of distilling things. You're in.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm at our distillery in East Pilsen, and we started in the West Loop with a pretty small little craft distillery that's a pub as well. It's still there, and then as we got bigger, we had to build this massive distillery. And so what's behind me is, well, basically are a bunch of pipes, and it looks like I could be in, I don't know, I could be in the engine room maybe of a submarine, for example.
It looks like you're building the Manhattan Project behind you.
Malört probably, could rival the nuclear bomb. So there.
And I'm glad you have a sense of humor about Malört. I think you kind of have to. I mean, CH acquired Malört after a lot of that social and word of mouth momentum blew up over the past 10 years. I mentioned the turning taste buds into taste foes. There were all the unofficial slogans for Malört, the champagne of pain, when you need to unfriend someone in person. Tonight's the night you fight your dad. That's a favorite.
Yeah, mine too.
Are people drinking Malört the wrong way by shooting it? Because here's why I ask. I feel like if people just sipped it, they wouldn't recoil. It's quite delicious if you just take your time with it. But I think when the rush to get it down your throat makes it more of a dare than a pleasant experience.
Well, I don't want to sound like, one of the dads of my generation, but there's no wrong way to do it. Like whatever makes you happy. But I actually really do believe that. I love Malört. I love bitter things. I love how it's got balance. It's got, kick your taste buds in the teeth. That doesn't actually make sense. I've had a couple of Malörts already, and but it's fun to shoot because, and I will say this: we actually drink Malört, not only recreationally here, but also seriously because, we do a lot of taste testing and quality control and all of that. And there is a huge difference between tasting Malört with a small sip versus shooting it. It has an entirely different taste profile. So I would encourage people to, when they're not just hanging out with their buddies at the bar or whatever, and the whole shot thing is going on, to actually try a little sip of it at home, because it's a completely different experience.
No doubt about it. And thinking of the drinking it professionally and the fact that you create Malört and you distill it, was it hard when you acquired Malört to get it right? Mm-hmm. When you had to kind of basically take the ingredients and put them together on your own, did it take a while to kind of figure out how to make Malört?
It did. So when the deal closed, and I say that it was such a fun transaction, to do. And so when it actually closed and we owned the company, of course we got the scroll, with the ancient Malört formula on it, like it was all, it was practically couldn't read it.
This is like Smithsonian stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, except I'm totally making that up. We got a PDF and an email. I tell that story way too often, but we got the recipe, and so we made a test batch based on that recipe, and we were like, nah, that's not really right. And so we just sort of scratched our heads and said, let's just rebuild this kind of from scratch. And so that's what we did. We essentially reverse engineered this product that we had just bought. It was crazy. We drank more Malört, more bad Malört during those it took about 3 or 4 months. Then I'm surprised we're not all just completely traumatized. We probably actually are. Yeah, that's okay.
I think a lot of people still don't know what wormwood is. I'm not even sure I'm totally clear on what wormwood is. Can you explain that?
It's kind of a weed. It's a weed. It's an herb. It grows like crazy. It grows in lots of different climates, including our climate here. And really, it's a simple. It's just a simple plant. It's kind of a stick. It's kind of like a bush, and it's got very small little sort of flowers on it. And now depending on where it grows, what climate, what soil, what happens that season, it's going to have different batches have different flavors, but it's obvious and very distinct, and most notable characteristic is its bitterness. It's probably the most bitter thing on the planet. And so if you bite into just a stick of wormwood, I mean, man, it'll make a bottle of Malört seem like vodka.
Does Malört mix with anything? Have people tried and failed? Is there any other way to drink it other than neat?
No, absolutely not. I'm sorry. I'm kind of a smart aleck. Yes, there is. There are a lot of awesome cocktails that bartenders over the years have produced, and some of them, get a little complicated with a lot of ingredients and a lot of stuff, which is fine. But the single easiest way to mix Malört is with grapefruit. It pairs so beautifully with grapefruit. It's kind of got a grapefruit flavor itself. And but when you get the kind of the sweetness of the grapefruit juice, it just pairs up beautifully. So if you're in a pinch and all you got is Malört and you can't handle the shots, just mix it with a little even grapefruit, like flavored seltzer water, and it rocks.
I enjoy the history of Malört. This is something back during the Prohibition era, as I understand it. Malört was able to skirt Prohibition because it was pitched or presented as a medicinal product. Yeah.
So Carl Jeppson, whose name still obviously graces the bottle, he was an immigrant from Sweden, and Malört is a version of a very traditional Scandinavian liqueur, which is a snaps or schnapps, or a besk or a brandvin. And what it is a digestive. And wormwood does have some, at least repeatedly has some anti parasite qualities. And, I think anybody who's had a big meal at an Italian restaurant, for example, and has, been brought a glass of Amaro at the end, knows that the bitterness and the herbalness will sort of help settle your stomach. So Mr. Jeppson was making this in his abode in Chicago, and it's kind of selling it around during Prohibition. And every now and then the feds would hassle him, and he would say, well, fine, I'll pour you a shot. You drink it. You tell me if this is something anybody would. And of course they would take it and say, oh, okay, that's cool. It's got to be medicine.
Right. No one's drinking this recreationally.
No.
You're free to go, Mr. Jeppson. It's all good. So the Chicago flag was added to the label in the 1930s.
Yep.
And for the last 3 decades before CH acquired Malört, it wasn't even made here anymore, right?
Yeah, it was originally made here, and then the Marsal distillery closed in the 70s. Distilleries everything had gotten consolidated. It was like what happened in beer. So none of the little guys were left. Well, yeah, thank God radio is still around. So yeah, it had to find a home. So it actually went briefly to a distillery in Kentucky, and then after that moved to a distillery in Florida, where it remained up until 2019. Yeah, when we brought it back here.
Tremaine, as we're recording this for the podcast, it's also being run on Facebook Live. Giorgio just checked in and said Malört, and he used the umlaut properly. Malört turns friends into best friends. Now that's a positive. That's a shot glass half full approach.
very much. That's very sweet.
That's the way to look at it. So, what is it about Malört? What is it that makes it so Chicago? How has this spirit become so ingrained in Chicago culture? I mean, it is right up there with old style Italian beef, deep dish pizza, the whole nine. Why Malört?
It's a great question. I think those things all have become Chicago icons, if you will, not by marketing or by really anybody trying to make that happen. They somehow resonate with us as Chicagoans. Now, I will say in full transparency, I was not born here, but I moved here about 22 years ago, and so I consider myself a Chicagoan. But I think, Malört in particular, we do love dive bars, and Malört and dive bars go hand in hand, right? And we're kind of to the point and no messing around, and we're tough and we get through these damn winters. And so getting through a shot of Malört is sort of like getting through a Chicago winter, I guess. You hope there's something better after.
That's true. That's why we live through the winters, because the summer is nothing but payoff.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's also nobody's ever tried too hard with Malört. It's always had a sense of humor about itself. George Brody, who bought the recipe from Carl Jepsen back in the 30s, was a complete man about town and a Renaissance man. He was a lawyer, he was a marketer, he was a distiller, he was a little bit of everything, and he just had such a great sense of humor about the product, and I think that goes with our spirit as Chicagoans as well.
See, Jake just checked in and said, "Random brag, I took a shot of Malört with Lance Bass."
Oh, wow!
Yep. Golf clap. That's fantastic.
Nicely done.
But along the lines of what you were saying, food and wine basically said the same thing. No other alcohol so potently carries the subtext, which is sometimes just text, of the ritual that is taking a shot. We're in this bullshit together. That's it. It's a bonding. It's that trial, that proof that we're Midwestern tough. We got this. And it's like a rite of passage. It's like getting jumped into a street gang doing a shot of Malört. It's like one of us, we accept you, one of us. Now, last time I looked at sales figures for Malört, there was somewhere in the neighborhood of 90% of overall sales were specific to Illinois. Is that still the case? Are you almost entirely Illinois?
Yeah, almost entirely. We've branched out a little bit. So we like to send Malört to other states where Chicagoans have gone, and that's happening. And Malört as a whole is still growing. It remains. The number one market by far is the city of Chicago. But it's bleeding out into the suburbs a little bit more, especially lately, as people haven't been coming into the city as much. They're taking it home.
Is there, I guess I don't know enough about business principles and 80-20 and all that. It probably doesn't even make sense to have a growth plan outside of Illinois. Just super serve the people who are here, or do you have a plan to really, go big nationally?
Well, we're doing everything, and the thing about Malört is, again, like, you can't put a slick marketing campaign behind Malört and make people drink it. That would just be, it would be asinine, and we're asinine in different ways than that. So yeah, but but we do like getting it in the hands of people who love it, and so we don't care where you live. If you live in California, we'll get it to you somehow.
It's one of those things. You're right. You can't do a $1 billion ad campaign like a Super Bowl ad. It's one of those things like, if you know, you know. Yeah. Mark just checked in and said, "I think Malört is delicious." He's sipping, not shooting, probably.
Mark, you were wise.
He's
taking his great time. Palate. Great palate.
He clearly does. So as far as the Jepsen's brand goes, I'm curious. You've got Jepsen's bourbon now.
Mm-hmm.
What made you put the bourbon under the Jepsen's brand as opposed to the CH brand? How does that delineation work?
So we about 5 years ago, we kind of stumbled upon an opportunity to buy some really high quality bourbon from both from Indiana and from Tennessee. And when we started CH, we started off as a vodka company and quickly started making many other things, vodka or gin and aquavit and Amaros and rum and all kinds of things. But the thing that we found out pretty quickly we were terrible at was making whiskey. We made some bourbons that like are still sitting in the barrel like 8 years later, and they still suck. So we're like, let's not try to be good at everything. So our whiskey program has always been sourced from, people who are much better at making whiskey. So anyway, so we ended up with this rather large supply of bourbon, and it was young, and we bottled it under the CH line and sold it just, a nickel above cost, mostly to bars. And then it wasn't selling all that well, but all of a sudden it turned 4 years old, and we tasted it again. And we were like, wow, this is really good. Something really special happens to bourbon at 4 years in the barrel. It opens up, it smooths out, it integrates, it does lots of good things. And so we realized we had a really nice quality product in our hand, and we wanted to reboot it. And, as much as CH is known for in the city of Chicago, particularly by bartenders as a really high quality, we're the only vodka that's actually made from Illinois grain.
I love that.
We really celebrate ingredients and flavors and all of that. Frankly, it had not become a real strong brand in consumers' minds. So we thought, well, we have Jepson's, and that's pretty well ingrained in consumers' minds. So let's just shamelessly exploit it. So we thought, yeah, let's get it out there. We'll put the Jepson's name on it, not being totally flip about it, but that it gets it in more people's hands because people are like, oh, I wonder if that has Malört in it.
I like the focus on local. It just makes sense for every obvious reason. Looking at the success and the growth of CH, founded just over 7 years ago, you had the right spirits, you had the right location. How could you have known back then that location in the West Loop would be the right place? Because I don't know that. I on paper, I don't know if that people would have thought the same thing or would have had the same vision back then.
Well, that was driven by something very specific, which is so when we started up the company, we wanted to make good products, and my old buddy Mark and I, who started up the company together, we'd been all over the country going to various distilleries, and we'd take the tour. And what drove us crazy is at the end of the tour, you'd hear all these amazing things about all the stuff they made, and then they'd like give you a little plastic cup and quarter ounce of this stuff, and you'd be like, oh, that's great. And so we wanted to have wow. And so we wanted to have a cocktail bar. We wanted to have a bar with our distillery. And so we were looking for a location where that would sort of make sense. And this spot just popped up in the sort of, I don't know if you call it the West Loop or what. We're on the other side. We're the east side of the expressway. But
you're on the other side of the river, so that counts for something.
Yeah. And, hey, Blackbird and Avec are kitty corner. So, we knew it was a good neighborhood. And we're lucky to still have that place. It's still a wonderful, absolutely wonderful. It's my favorite bar in the city, if I'm allowed to say that about my own bar.
And some of the products, the key gin with the key limes.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. We've tried to make stuff that is a little bit different and that not everybody else is making. Because otherwise, sort of, what's the point of being a small distillery? Because being a small distillery allows you to make really interesting things and work with really fun and real ingredients.
So the specialty spirits you do, is that just you, like, as a mad scientist playing in the lab, trying new things?
I'm a drinker. I've always loved drinking, and so my first and foremost, my thing is it needs to taste good. It needs to be something that you can enjoy drinking. But so much of our inspiration came from actually from having that cocktail bar in the West Loop, because back then the only liquor license the state would give you as a distillery to sell cocktails was if you only used your own stuff. So it's not like we could go out and buy, different spirits. So if we wanted it, we had to make it. And so that gave us lots of inspiration. And then as we started selling our core spirits to, bartenders around the city, we ended up doing many collaborations and doing like custom amaros for places like Monteverde and Spiaggia and Milena, and doing a custom gin for the goat restaurants, and on and on. So we've been inspired by other drinkers in the city of Chicago.
I love it. And CH, the website is chdistillery.com. You know where to find Malört. If you're watching this or listening to this in Chicago, you know where to find Malört. Of course, you can get it at liquor stores, but you can also support your local establishments too. I love what you're doing. I love the fact that you are a Chicago true and true distillery. We're proud to have you.
Thank you.
On our cultural landscape.
We are proud to, get Malört. I've likened it to, we really don't own Malört. The people who love Malört own Malört. We just happen to be the ones who are lucky enough to get to make it.
It truly is lightning in a bottle. It's one of those magical things that just, again, if you know, it is part of who we are now. It's amazing. Tremaine Atkinson, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.